Well, welcome everyone to the 27th rendition of the Legislative Exchange Forum. Appreciate everyone being online this afternoon. This afternoon in the on the West Coast and evening here. So, our agenda for this evening. We will have time at the end for questions, and we'll talk a little bit about the coming events later this month, and then hold your questions till the end. We'll try to monitor the chat room. If there's questions that come along, we'll let our speaker get through her presentation, and then we'll come around for some questions and answers, and we'll attempt to answer the questions that may be in the chat room. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ms. Jennifer Akin. Jennifer, in December of 2024, returned from sabbatical and stepped into a new role as Vice President of Strategic Alliances in the White Oak Collaborative. In this capacity, she develops and executes strategies that maximize the collective impact of powerful coalitions, ensuring Blue Star Families has a strong and resilient national network of support for military and veteran-connected families. Prior to this role, Jennifer served as the Blue Star Family's first Chief of Staff and was a trusted advisor and brainstorming partner to the CEO and executive team as they led Blue Star Families through a critical high-growth period. As Chief of Staff, she piloted an in-house incubator and accelerator capability, resulting in the Blue Star Families Do Your Part initiative, which she's going to discuss with us this evening.
Thank you so much, Harold. And thank you, all of you, for the work you're doing. I'm not sure what the typical kind of run of show is, but I would love for this to be a dialogue. So please jump in at any time. If you're more comfortable doing it in the chat, please do it there. If you want to come off mute or raise your hand, I want this to be as much of a conversation as possible. So it's nice to meet all of you. Thank you. When I came and started doing state level anything at Blue Star Families, I didn't know anything about it. But what I learned very quickly is there are very few organizations doing any work in a coordinated manner at the state level for military and veteran families. And MOAA is one of the few. So just thank all of you for what you're doing, because I had no idea how much it was needed until now. So obviously we've got great work coming out of the Defense State Liaison Office, focused a lot on legislative reform, great work being done at the Association of Defense Communities, but we all know we also need grassroots support, and a lot of that comes from our veteran community. So thank you. And huge thanks to Harold and Rich and Steve and Jen Goodell, who've been just really tremendous partners in this work. I'm Jenny Akin. You've heard my bio, so I won't go through that. What I will warn is that I've got a 4-year-old upstairs doing bath time right now with my mom, so I apologize in advance for any squeals of delight coming from that, but hopefully it brings a smile to your face if you do hear it. So I'm going to start at the beginning, and you can drop in the chat or raise your hand. I would love to have an understanding, just as I start, about how familiar you are with Blue Star Families as an organization. Let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I know everything there is to know about Blue Star Families, 1 being I know absolutely nothing at all. If you can just give me a little sampling in the chat, I'll know kind of how deep to dive. Yeah, okay, 0, 5, Midland, fair to Midland, 1. Oh, great. Well, let me start there then. So yeah, well, Jen, you've got to by this point. So Blue Star Families lowercase. Let's talk about the lowercase version of Blue Star Families. Blue Star Families lowercase are currently serving military families. So Blue Star Families, the proper noun, the organization, we're the largest organization committed to currently serving military families. We were founded in 2009. If you remember, that was a pretty kinetic time in the wars. By a group of military spouses who were essentially looking around and saying, we need help. We need a lot of help. And there wasn't research, there wasn't coordination. And so they started in 2009, and we've been growing kind of nonstop ever since. We currently support about 450,000 families in our membership, which is huge. About 20% of those are veterans, because it turns out once people join, often they don't want to leave, or they come to us to kind of keep giving back in a volunteer capacity. So that's great. We've got 13, soon to be 14 chapters on the ground nationwide, and we are doubling that in the next couple of years, which we're really excited about. That's really where our programming is delivered in the community. So we've got about 14 or so programs that we deliver in the community. We've got an online cybersecure platform where we also deliver programming and provide some social opportunities there. But what's a little different about Blue Star Families is that we also are trying to change the way the rest of America supports the military. And that's really what I do. So I came out of civil military relations at Duke and UNC, which, yes, this tournament has been quite painful as both a UNC and a Duke fan. I'm a unicorn there. But, I come out of civil military relations, and I know that's where the rubber meets the road, right? So our Do Your Part initiative, which I'll talk about here in a sec, is really about changing the way America supports the military. And we're going sector by sector to do that. So we have an employer sector that's focused on military spouse employment. We've got a corporate sector about how corporations can more authentically support military families. What I'll talk to you today about is our state initiative. So our state initiative is partnered in partnership with the National Governors Association. And I'll get into a lot of details there. And we've got a whole host of other sectors coming out soon too, kind of rolling out over the next couple of years. And that is the very, very fun work that I get to lead. So we've got sports and recreation, education and military youth, we've got arts and entertainment. And what I'll show you today, we're doing that level of rigor for each of those sectors and really building these powerful coalitions that can actually change and help support quality of life issues for military families, because we all know we need preachers who understand their congregations and teachers who understand the kids in their classroom and t-ball coaches who understand what it's like if a unit deploys and 3 kids now on the team are also now experiencing that, right? So we need our neighbors to understand. So that's sort of what I do. I also do lead the White Oak Collaborative, which is we're the secretariat of that at Blue Star Families. It's a coalition of about 140 different groups. It has its own board of governance, and it's a lot of fun to lead over there. But that's the other half of my job. I will take a pause there before I go any deeper on if you have any questions about Blue Star Families in general. Where are our chapters? I'll share a map with you. We've got 13. Some of them are statewide and some of them are local. So we've got like 2 in Florida. We've got one that just launched last year in Fayetteville, North Carolina. We're about to launch one at Hampton Roads and the National Capital Region. They're kind of all over the country. So I will drop a link in the chat once I get moving here and show you where you can find them. A few years ago, I was chatting over coffee at the Army Navy Club with our CEO. And we were really sitting back and just having one of those moments that you always appreciate when you're somebody's chief of staff, where you actually just get to talk about how we can make big change. And we kind of came up with this idea called Do Your Part. It eventually became Do Your Part. And the idea was like, how do we activate and empower like the America in general and give them ways to help? Because we know everyday Americans, want to support military families. We've got the research to prove it, but a lot of folks don't know how. So we started rolling out these sectors. And so the state sector, which applies to your work, is here. And so this is really simple. You can just go to doyourpart.com and you can get to all of this. The idea is make this as easy as possible. When we launched this sector, what we knew were a few different things. We knew that there are a whole lot of states doing really incredible work, and that states are really the incubators of innovation. We knew that most states are also very strapped on staff time to really look into these issues. Many staff aren't culturally competent. There are a lot of states that have primarily National Guard, but really the only guidance they have is from the Defense Department looking out for active duty families, because most of the Defense State Liaison Office priorities are really focused on that population. So we launched this to try to solve for some of those problems and to really introduce a way for anybody who wants to do work for the state at the state level to find what's already being done and implement that. And so we launched this state initiative, and we really are anchoring it in this toolkit. And I just want to say thank you, Stephen, for finding the chapters page and dropping it in there. I appreciate that. So when you go to doyourpart.com and you go to the state's initiative, you can read all about the initiative itself. You can read about all of its supporters. It's a very bipartisan effort. We've got a lot of support from across the nation, which is fantastic at the governor's level. And what we just launched last month is the Do Your Part State Toolkit. So first thing you're going to see when you go into this toolkit is a map. The states that are shaded in, those are what we're calling Do Your Part states. I say that only to say these are the states that have reviewed and sent back all of the data that we looked for and found for them. And their governor has either issued a proclamation or joined our gubernatorial honorary committee and declared the state to be a Do Your Part state. So these states are the ones that have publicly said to us as part of this project that they are setting the intention of doing better for military families in their state. We hope to have the whole map filled in by July 4th. And I think we're pretty close to being able to execute that, which would be very, very exciting. But again, we want to make this easy to use. So I'll explain in a second what the model is a little bit behind this, but there's a Cadillac working under this hood. So when you go into here, by the way, I'm not a car person. If a Cadillac is not a good car, pick a well-running engine, and that's what's under the hood. But you can go in and search for pretty much anything. So let's say you have an issue area that's really important to you or to somebody that you're working with. You can say to that person or for yourself, hey, you know what? Blue Star Families put together this cool toolkit. You should go see what's there. So let's say right now we've got deployments going on. And maybe you're on the Military Affairs Council in your state or something, and your state's like, I want to do something for families that are deployed. What can we do? You just type in deployment in the keyword here, and it's going to give you a list. Now you're going to notice pretty quickly, this list is not in alphabetical order. It is not in alphabetical order by the name of the thing or the state. This is giving you a list in order of the easiest to implement, highest potential impact solutions for the populations they're intended to serve, because we want to get that low-hanging fruit out of the way, right? So you can kind of go in, and 90% of these also have, by the way, direct links so that you can then go see exactly what that state is doing and how they're implementing it. So that's what this really is. And I want you to really kind of play around with it. It's still in beta form. So we're going to continue building it out. It's got about 1,350 different policies and programs in here right now. And it'll continue to grow as more states kind of review what we found and pull back. So now I want to explain what's going on behind these results. Let me see. How do we put input data for your state? Yeah, so first, a couple of things. So we did a comprehensive landscape analysis of everything we could find on open source for your state. So you're from Kentucky, Mike. You can search by Kentucky too, by the way. So everything that we found and coded will be in here for your state. It's not like there's no state in here that has nothing. There might be one territory. I think Mariana Islands may not have anything, but everybody else has got what we could find. What we did is then sent the data that we collected to each of the states. It knows the birthplace of UNC basketball. And sent this information to the states and said, please check this and send it back to us if we need to adjust anything. There's also a way to submit more information on our website. So if you scroll to the bottom, you can also submit things that we missed, or, if there are errors in there or something like that. We've had a typo submitted, which in a massive database that's in basically an Excel sheet is very hard to copy edit. So we're really, really grateful. Oh, Kansas, not in Kentucky. I'm sorry. I've been up since 4 a.m. Kiddo went on a field trip this morning. We'll go to Kansas now. Kansas is in here too. So you're going to get this. You'll notice here a couple of different things. So, this spotlight program is a good segue into what I was about to discuss. So, when I say the easiest to implement, highest potential impact solutions, what I'm telling you is we included everything from symbolic, non statutory reform all the way through statutory reform and everything in between. There are administrative changes in here, executive actions, public private partnerships. Everything's in here. So historically, the databases that exist are focused on legislation, but you don't always have to pass legislation. There are a lot of things along that continuum. And you can also look at, is it addressing a real problem for the population that it's intended to serve? So if you're doing a search for something by National Guard, which I can do here for you, you can, it's going to give you different things than if you're searching for something for military children, because the issues affecting the Guard and Reserve and the importance of those issues rooted in research, Blue Star Families research, lots of people's different research, 17 different organizations research went into this. It's all in here, right? So then you're not wasting your time on trying to get really heavy lift things off the ground when there's something easier you could do that you can kind of borrow from another state. Let me check the chat here because I saw some things coming through. Yeah, exactly, Stephen. So, yes, that's 100% the benefit of this. Many of these states that we've spoken to, what they're finding to be the best part about this is that they can easily say, you know what? I'm in state, I'm just going to use two very, very different states. I'm in Oregon. If Washington's doing it, we can probably do it in Oregon too. Oregon's also going to say, maybe if it's happening in South Carolina, that may not be the way we want to do it here. We're very different populations. So they can find like states in addition to just finding the policies and ideas themselves, right? And again, we want to make this as easy as possible. And so what we found in talking to many of the state staffers, and you guys probably experience this every day, is that they're basically like, tell us what you need. And now you can go in, or they can go in and say, okay, my boss, this legislator, or my boss in the the Secretary of Military Affairs, or the tag is asking me for ideas for what we can do. This is going to give you a huge, huge, huge leg up in doing that search. You don't have to go into everybody's code now. So that's kind of what it is. It's a very straightforward thing. I'm happy to talk about, the bigger picture theoretical stuff or do searches or whatever, but it is really just to make your life easier. And I hope you'll use it, and I hope you'll share it out with folks. We pulled it off of the Blue Star Family site and into doyourpart.com to make it easy to remember, and then tried to make it as easy to find what we could there. Let me read through here. Trisha, I'm going to read your comment real quick. Trisha says, the more you can connect the state National Guard, the better your connections can be. They have direct links. Yep, 100%. I didn't know this until I started working on this project, how many states the tag was the senior cabinet official for that state on military and veterans affairs. Yep. And the comms folks are usually the ones who say this is a political win for the governor. We should absolutely go do this. So yeah, absolutely. Trisha, I'm not sure what MPAD is. What is an MPAD?
That's the Mobile Public Affairs Detachment. They normally, I don't know if they still do, but they normally are split half and half with another state. So you've automatically linked between two different states what they're doing. So, and they also have the compacts between states. So you're linking not only the governor, but they already have those interstate compacts because they have it on the emergency and those different linkages also. So you have it with the active duty, and then you have it with the businesses also, the ESG and GS. So the combinations of what you spread out, and they do it regionally. And so those connections you can spread out so much more, and they can write up the articles and everything and get into the communities, and you can make it that, the family is so important within the Guard because you have Guard families. Yeah. So it within the community, within a unit, within anything else. So if you are trying to add that, you can expand it. Different states do it in different ways, but you can really expand what you're trying to do if you include it throughout the National Guard network, because that network is so strong. So
yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's an avenue to work through, and they have those connections because they use the military avenues and they use the political, which is your state with your governor. Mm-hmm. So they already use those. So you just have to have them use it for the family. Is adding that segment.
Yeah, and I see the note in here about getting in touch with ANGUS and NAUGUS and all of the, the TAG Association and all of those too. I think one of the stronger networks that's been really wonderful in helping spread this tool have really been the state secretaries themselves, who are texting each other information about it, especially as they're coming into legislative sessions. So I'm going to answer the question here, Stephen, in a second. But one of the things that you're kind of alluding to is there have been these really incredible ad hoc networks that have been created, but there hasn't really been anything national. And so this often includes many of those ad hoc kind of regional things as well. Will pop up in here. But if you are aware of any that aren't in here, especially, please add them, and we'll make sure we put them in here. Carl, let me answer some questions from the chat real quick, and then I'll tag you in. Stephen, is it available online, and what can we do to help meet the goal? Yes, it's available online. What can you do to help meet the goal? Share doyourpart.com with anyone and everyone who asks you where they should be looking, or if there are any ideas that people have for supporting military families. What I will say, and this gets to Alan's question, we have not taken a organizational stance on any of these issues as of right now. So you ask if we're encouraging the use of uniformed services instead of armed forces. What you'll see in our data when you search is that we are going to give deference to the Defense State Liaison Office priority. And off the top of my head, because I'm very tired, I actually can't remember which of those two they use, which is sort of embarrassing, but whichever one they use is going to be more heavily weighted in the model. So it would pop up a little higher than the other one. It is also an administrative change, just to give you insight into the model, that would help expand access to resources, which is going to be pretty weighted fairly heavily. So even just those definitional changes are going to do well in just the way the model shakes out. Carl, do you still have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I'd like to add on to what the gentle lady said earlier, dealing with the interstate compacts. Mm-hmm. Just as background, I was a senior Army advisor for the Maryland Guard for many years. I also have a son who's in the Washington State National Guard, AGR. This is just a suggestion. I don't know what your linkages are, but the National Guard Bureau, if you have some points of contact in there, they could be a great vehicle to help you facilitate these compacts and interneting working between the states. That's basically what I'd say. NGB.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And they love this tool, especially right now, because there are many states, and you all are probably familiar with this, but in case you haven't thought about it, because typically National Guard and Reserve policy get lumped together in a lot of conversations. But not always in policy. So what we were recently able to do is we had a state come to us and they said, hey, we're trying to get parity in our universities state where there's parity between the Guard and Reserve. And we're like, yeah, here's 5. He's like, oh my gosh, I've been looking for months. I was like, this took 2 minutes in our database to find this information. it can be used for that sort of stuff too. And because of that, that was elevated up to the National Guard Bureau, and they're using this very actively right now.
The point I wanted to make right quick was, and Jennifer's kind of alluded to that, this is a tool for your toolkit. She'll be the first to admit, I think, as we talked earlier as we prepared for this, it's not all inclusive. I mean, you can't get to everything because it takes a lot of work to figure out what's going on in all the states. So, like using DSLO and their website, NCSL does a great job with tracking legislation. This is another tool. It's not to be an end all. They continue to evolve, just like the DSLO objectives, priorities evolve over the years. But it's an opportunity for you to find something else with some more information. So, when I was with DSLO, I had these bookmarks across the top of my computer screen, and those were I'd start on one end and work my way to the other until I found information that I felt like I needed. Hard lesson learned from some of the new regional liaisons with DSLO. You can be side by side with the governor. That's great. But if the tag isn't on your team, you're a failure. The tag is the person who is going to speak for military issues in a state. And often you'll think you got it down. And if you've gone to the legislature, I can tell you the first call that the chairman or chairperson of the Military and Veterans Affairs committees in that legislature, when an issue comes to them as military related, they're going to call the tag and ask what he thinks about it. And we have over the years lost a lot of legislation because it was a hard lesson learned from some of our new people that you've got to touch base with the tag. You may not. I can tell you in 11 years of doing that, I had a one-on-one with governors probably twice. But I visited the tag's office every time I went to the state because that was the person I knew had access to the governor that I couldn't probably get because I was in and out of the state on a trip for a specific purpose. So again, it's a great tool, I think, and something. TAG stands for the Adjutant General, Sherry. He or she is the commander of the National Guard in the state. National Guard Bureau controls some purse strings and therefore can have some impact. But they report to the governor, and that's a key relationship that. And I know the people on this call, I think you're probably all aware of that because you're all seasoned veterans in this effort. But the people you deal with may not understand that, so it's important to keep that in mind.
Yeah, and we made an intentional decision that was different and controversial at the beginning of this project, which was to partner with the National Governors Association and to go through the governor's office. And it was very different than going through an association for defense communities, which are incredible, or NCSL, who we also work with a lot on this project. DSLO is 100% bought in and have been walking with us on this journey the whole time. But I'm glad we did it that way because one of the things that we found out was when we sent the data that we found to the states, many of the military affairs departments and veterans affairs departments weren't even aware of things that other parts of the state were doing. So they may have something that was happening over in the education department or in health and human services, or even like Department of Transportation or Parks and Rec, and they weren't aware of it. And so we helped them. This wasn't the point of the project, but we did help them kind of like pull those things together. And it's helped a lot of the several of the tags and secretaries build stronger relationships with their governors. So what we wanted to do is really give them a tool in their toolkit too, to say, hey, here's what we're doing well, here's what we're not doing. It gives them a point of comparison too, right? Like I can look at my state, I can look at other states, I can kind of explore that. And kind of the next phase of this project is really going to be doing more casework. I wish I could do that full time. I wish I could meet with all the tags and say, here's what you've got going on. Here's some other states. It's just, there's only one Jenny Akin right now. So that'll be next. But it's a lot. You're right. It's a tool in the toolkit. It pulls in the NCSL database. It pulls in DSLO current and emeritus priorities. And it's just a fun project and it's worthwhile. And I just appreciate you all using it and amplifying it to the greatest extent possible. And if you find great ideas in there or have others you would like to add, I think this is actually the next agenda item. The DSLO is seeking state priorities right now, actively recruiting them. So I've got some members of my team and they're digging around for some great ideas that answer questions from our research. Yeah, Mike.
Our state National Guard advocates for better benefits for the National Guard, but it's only if you're a member of the Kansas National Guard. That is a little bit of a problem. And in particular, we have a Missouri Air National Guard base that's literally on our border. And there's lots of Kansans that drive across the Missouri River and work in the Missouri Air National Guard because they have C-130 experience, and that's the kind of airplanes they fly there. And so I have advocated multiple times and been shot down every time to try and say that if we're going to enact a benefit for National Guard members, it should be for National Guard members irrespective of what National Guard they belong to. Because I believe Kansas taxpayers that happen to also serve in the Missouri Air National Guard are deserving of having their service recognized by whatever benefits Kansas Air National Guard or Army National Guard person gets. So I just throw that out there for everybody as an advocacy thought, thinking point. When you look at legislation and you look at programs, is it fair to people that serve, maybe they serve in the reserve and their reserve station is in another state? Would the way the legislation's written impact them so that they wouldn't get the benefit because their reserve station is in Oklahoma City or in Missouri with the Missouri Air National Guard is the bad example we've got here. And I'm sure the states that have smaller geographic areas and lots more boundaries than we do probably have the same issue with their adjacent states. So I'd just like everybody to try and fight that. I'll call it state parochialism, even though I expressed some about the UNC basketball program. Anyway, thank you very much.
It's a super interesting point. One that has not come across. We don't have an organizational stance on it. And I would need to even check to see how or if that was accounted for in our database. But what I am going to do is I'm going to make a note of it even in our model, because what we can do is pull those 92 National Guard policies and ideas that are in the database and look at them to see if any stand out, and we can bump them up and give them a higher implementation score. I think that's sort of the beauty of this, is you're helping us understand what nuance we should be looking for so that in this living model, as we continue to build it out with more and more things, that it really is giving people the best. So I'm going to look for that nuance. Thank you so much for flagging that.
Active, reserve, and National Guard, we have advocated hard for no matter what component you serve in, you get the state benefit. So we've had that come up a couple of times, and usually the legislators tap their forehead and say, well, of course, we want it for everybody that's got a uniform on. But sometimes the people that write the laws are attorneys that have no military background, and no disrespect to the legislative attorneys in my state or any other state, but there are a lot of them that don't have military background, and they don't understand what a component is, a reserve component or a regular component. They don't get that. So there's a lot of work to be done, just making sure that the attorneys that work on legislative language are careful with their wording.
Yeah, and Trish makes a good point about the difference between Title 10, which is the reserve, and the Guard is Title 32.
Yeah.
It's interesting that I think we Jennifer, you and I discussed earlier, the first liaison we had with the DSLO, when we stood that office up in 2004, was the National Governors Association. And in fact, that was, if you recall, 2003 and 4, we had mobilized 6 National Guard brigades in the 42nd Division out of New York to go to Iraq. And the question was, what are we doing for these National Guard families that we have mobilized? And the answer was, we don't know. And the National Governors Association, for many years after that, conducted surveys of what state benefits were. And that was a driving force behind many issues that the DSLO worked in the early years. And one emeritus issue that Jennifer alluded to was that employment protection. So when a person who may be living in Kansas, but he serves with the Missouri National Guard, has to be immobilized, then his job in Kansas would be protected. And that was that issue is long since been completed, but still is an issue. I can tell you, just because the law was passed, absolutely doesn't mean that everybody's following it and can remember it.
One of the things, just to talk further on that, and that is the federal doesn't give the state and doesn't give the Guard benefits either, and you get a good share of those different benefits. So it's not just the state to state, it is federal to state. If you have someone that is doing certain benefits, you literally, as a state, go into the federal and you have to bargain with them which codes go onto the orders, so that they, as to what protections are for that individual for what the mission is and all. So I've actually done that part of that mission. So it is, you literally have to work through each one of those. So it is across the board that there is not a support, federal to state, state to state, and all, as to what the different benefits are. It's not just if you're wearing the uniform or not wearing the uniform. So the more we can do to help that, the better off we are as a whole. And that's the same whether, we talk about uniform versus armed services, it's across the board that we have to support our fellow veterans across the board as to what they're doing. And that's their families as well. So we have to look at it and as a whole, and the more we can get them out thinking outside the box and supporting that way, whether it's regionally, every baby step helps in doing that.
Super point.
There's
any quick questions. Go ahead.
I just want to add on to Trish's comment. Of course, our country is one of the host countries for the FIFA World Cup this summer, and there's a lot of security issues and a lot of logistic support issues that the various National Guard elements are going to be asked to support. And where I live in Kansas is going to be one of the training camps for Algeria. And that's just like dropping a foreign embassy into your country for a month and a half. And I don't think the people here get the level of concern if something goes wrong to those athletes, to those people, to those visitors. So I think it's very important that the orders be cut properly for the National Guard troops that are on that duty. And it's a big difference whether they're on orders for 29 days or 30 days. And so we need to make sure that they don't lose benefits because their team lost in the first round of the tournament. We need to make sure that they get full benefits as if their team went all the way to the finals, because some units are going to serve for a few days, I say 20 or 30 days, and some are going to serve for a month and a half or maybe even 2 months. But everybody that's on that effort should get the full benefit of Title X medical care and all of that stuff. And I don't know that that's been fully articulated in the planning process. I hope the NGB is on that.
Yeah, that's echelons above our pay grade, obviously, but I think that happens all the time. And you're right. You see it, particularly with the reservists who could be living in one one region and be going to another region with their duty assignment. Or any other quick questions for Jennifer? We're approaching the witching hour here. So as I mentioned before, and Jennifer mentioned, the Federal Registry is open, and that's the link to it. And you'll find it on the slides on our website. But you can, as we did last year, if you have issues that you determined and found, there's a picture of it. It's very easy to do. You just click on the link and fill out the information on your affiliation, and it will and you can outline your issue. You really kind of want to make sure you got the issue defined and any potential solutions that you might be considering. And we certainly appreciate Jenny bringing us to this to us. So we mentioned at the last meeting that we were going to look at some potential for some bonus meetings. And our first of those efforts is going to be on the 13th of April, which is, I believe, is a Monday. And we, at the same time, 8 o'clock Eastern time, the link will go out. We'll send out a link with save the date, and you'll have that information. But we're going to talk a little bit about suicide prevention programs and the latest report from the Department of Veterans Affairs and what's working and what's not working, and how you can help in your state. So more to follow on that. A copy of the slides, Carl, before I go to Steve, are on our website. So go to the website and click on the events, and you'll find the slides.
Yeah. On the website, everything is there for the event, and then I move it over to the ideas page after the event. So you'll be able to find it on one of those two pages. And just a note, while we're going to do different topics at some of the bonus meetings in the future, we're going to have several that address suicide prevention programs. And as Harold said, this first one is kind of a higher level look at what's working, what's not, just to kind of seed your minds for different programs you could consider for your state, if that's an area of advocacy that interests you. And this is not going to be very specific about what states are doing, but we're going to become more specific as we have more sessions in the future. But this is a great opportunity for you to talk to a researcher and really drill down. The VA's report is available online for the previous year, for 2025. We won't repeat what's already on the report, but the doctor can actually discuss the trends, what they're seeing, what's hopeful, what's the type of programs that have been tried and haven't really worked that well, to help you think about what's great in your state or what might work in your state. So please join us, spread the word, invite others to it. We'll get a couple save the dates out there. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. And I know, for example, that's a Monday that some of you may be traveling because that's the week of AIA. But you have an organization, and as military officers, we know that how to delegate. We figured that out long ago. So delegate to someone else in your organization and the council to attend that meeting if you would. In that light, I know many of you are preparing to go to AIA in the next couple of weeks, and we wish you safe travels and happy advocating.
Thanks everybody for joining us.
You.
That's the wrap up. Thank you, Jenny.